Hello, hello. Welcome. How's everyone doing? I see a couple people have jumped on. If you are watching and are able to comment in the comment box, kind of let me know. Maybe say hello. Thank you for joining. Let's see. Hi, Ignacio. Awesome. Wow, from Thailand. That is really cool. Well, thank you for joining. This is kind of my first stream. Oh, no problem. I totally get it. If you're watching on TV, I can imagine typing in a response is not the easiest thing to do. So thanks for hopping on. This is my first kind of go at a live stream. So really just kind of want to talk to a couple of folks, see how folks are doing, really find out kind of who's watching my channel and my videos. And then also want to talk through a little bit of content too. And we'll hang out for a couple of minutes and see if a couple of other folks join. But how are things in Thailand? Are you originally from there or living? Oh, hey, Sarah. Thanks for joining. Also, if you are able to and you are logged into YouTube, if you can maybe hit the like button or maybe even share with your friends, that kind of helps boost visibility a little bit. Again, no pressure. You certainly don't have to, but something that kind of helps the channel and helps the feed. Oh, cool. Wow. Awesome. So Nacio, as I was saying, I think the weird thing about YouTube, or the kind of cool thing, is that it's in a way it's like a one-way street. You know, people produce content and videos and things, but it's hard to tell where people are watching from or what's meaningful to certain people. So this is really cool to just find out people are watching from all over the world, which is kind of a wild idea, really. But the internet is kind of a broad, wide place, right? And that's the cool thing about it, is that people can consume content from wherever they are on planet Earth. So thanks for stopping in. Gonna hang out for a couple minutes and see if a couple of folks join. And then if we get a couple more folks, we'll probably start talking about points and elite status. I wanted to talk about kind of what has happened kind of at the airlines and the hotels as this global crisis has swept the world, right? I think a lot of the airline programs and hotel programs have made pretty significant changes to their award programs, particularly at the elite level, right? With all these kind of loyalty or all these loyal members who can't fly, they can't earn status, right? And so I want to talk about kind of what has changed. And I've kind of tried to summarize all the different updates that have occurred over the last kind of couple of weeks, and we can kind of talk through what they actually mean. Oh, cool. Delta. Yeah, I mean, if you watch any of my videos, you've probably seen that I fly a ton of American. For better or worse, like that's where I'm located geographically. I'd rather be flying like Delta, for example. I hear a ton of good things about Delta, and a lot of people kind of say the service is really good, and they're at least kind of more customer oriented than either United or American. So I would love to fly a different airline, honestly, but just I'm located in a major American hub, and it doesn't make sense for me to do that, for better or worse. I will go ahead and jump over a little bit to some of the content. So Inaxio, were you made it to gold for 2020, right? Based on 2019 travel, is that right? And I guess with Delta's changes they announced, and kind of extending status. Did that help you? I mean, were you traveling earlier this year, calendar year, or kind of? I wonder how that has worked for you. Hey, folks are joining, and if you're able to, kind of comment in the comment section or in the chat box and let me know you're here and where you're from. That would be cool if you're able to. Hide this and hide that. So as you can see, I want to talk through kind of some of the extensions and things that are happening at the different airlines. So I kind of went through the different press releases and kind of scanned through a couple of different websites to really see what the airlines are doing this year in response to people not being able to travel and fly, and particularly around what is happening with their loyal travelers. So with the business travelers, basically, who are kind of committed to one carrier and earning elite status, these airlines have reacted and kind of extended benefits or extended elite status into next year in response to try to keep those travelers there. So I want to compare what we have heard so far from United and Delta, and they look pretty similar, but there are a couple little nuances. You'll notice kind of in the table here, the big kind of elephant in the room here is that American has not yet said what they're going to do. They're at least a week or two behind United and Delta. And I expect them to say something soon, but we really haven't heard anything, which is kind of wild. So I guess we're going to talk a little bit about what United is doing and what Delta is doing. Talk a little bit about maybe what we think American's going to do, but it's really hard to tell, honestly. I think the biggest news for most folks who are traveling, and Ignacio, this probably applies to you, is that elite status has been extended by both Delta and United through the 2021 program year. So what that means is that your status you have today will also be applicable next year as well, and will expire at the very beginning of 2022. The airlines are basically saying that because people can't earn elite credit, from a huge chunk of this year, that they're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and extend their current status again through the 2021 program year and into the beginning of 2022, when status traditionally expires, right? That is pretty exciting. I agree, Ignacio. That's kind of what I think needs to happen. Again, when I say the 2021 program year, traditionally you earn your elite credit in a given calendar year, and then it applies for the next calendar year. So the activity, right, that you're flying, or the flights you took earlier this calendar year in 2020, in theory applied to your elite status in 2021. And what they basically have said is, because you can't fly much of this year, again, we're going to extend your status all the way through next year, as if you had flown the same amount of activity in 2020. So that is good news and big news, and honestly is a big win. I did read an interesting piece, and maybe I'll try to find it and link to it. But one of the big vloggers, Gary Leff, he writes View from the Wing. He said that he thinks potentially that it almost might backfire for some of the airlines, because if people are guaranteed status, right, without having to earn it any longer, they may defect for the rest of the calendar year if they get back to their normal travel routines, and potentially actually fly other carriers. Because really, ultimately, elite loyalty and elite programs are all about revenue, right? Bringing that revenue into the business. And if they don't have to, if they're just giving people the benefit of the doubt and not kind of asking for that revenue in exchange for elite status, people may go elsewhere for a couple of months. Again, granted, these are such exceptional circumstances that there may not have been any other options, but that's something that's out there and is a possibility, I guess. I'm not saying I would do it or many folks would, but there's certainly a chance that could happen. True, you do get the chance to make it to the next tier. That's kind of one thing to note. There are kind of some nuances, and I haven't called them all out here. We can talk through them a little bit, and they are a little bit different for each program. United and Delta have both done things a little bit differently, so we'll talk about that. So again, both United and Delta have extended current elite status through the 2021 program year. They have made a couple changes, or they are a little bit different in terms of qualifying for elite status kind of in the future, per se. What United has done is they have reduced the elite thresholds for 2021 and have said they're going to do it as well for 2022. I don't think we have the numbers yet for 2022, but we have it for 2021. And actually, they're 50% lower, I think, than they were previously. I can actually, here we can take a look at that. Let me shift us over real fast. Let me throw that up here. We can take a look. So I know it's a little bit hard to see, but United is basically saying that their new thresholds for silver, you only have to earn 6 premier qualifying flights and 2,000 PQPs, which I think are premier qualifying points. They're based on dollar spend, I believe, or you simply hit 2,500 PQPs to earn status. According to United, that's they've been reduced by 50%. So 1K, which is the top United status, is only requiring 26 qualifying flights and 9,000 PQPs or 12,000 PQPs as an alternative. So I think I mentioned this in another video, but United has a little bit of a different model where you can earn it based on flight activity and dollars or simply dollars. If you earn simply by spend, the threshold is a little bit higher, kind of potentially as it should be, than the dollar threshold if you add flights to that as well. So let me jump back. So again, I guess the key thing there with United is they have lowered the threshold for elite qualifying activity this year, which enables you to potentially achieve a higher tier than you have in years prior. Let me jump back over here. Hello, Torpedo Joe. Thanks for joining. Thank you for joining. Okay, so again, that's United. What they have done is reduce the elite thresholds for 2021 and 2022. And again, we know what 2021 is. We don't know yet what 2022 will look like. Delta has done it a little bit different way. And if there are folks who are watching who read this a different way than I did, let me know. But I read it to say that the 2020 elite activity is being rolled into the 2021 earning year for the 2022 program year. So all the flights you took this year are getting rolled to next year and basically get added to that activity, which I think that's what you were saying, Ignacio, which is actually really cool. I think it's allowing you to basically potentially get even higher next year than maybe you were going to previously. So taking the activity you've earned this year so far and applying that to next year, basically adding it to next year, which again enables you to maybe hit a higher tier than you would have otherwise. So again, United and Delta are taking different paths. United is reducing the thresholds. Delta is giving you credit in the future for activity that occurred this year. So those are kind of the two big things. Again, it's really, I think most people are concerned with what's going to happen to their status, and two, what does elite earning look like for the rest of this year and into next year? And I think both United and Delta have answered that question. Again, American hasn't said anything. We don't really have any information about what that possibly might look like. Singapore. Is it Singapore? Is that right, Torpedo Joe? I should know that if it is, because I have been there. So another couple things I guess worth noting for in terms of extensions, a lot of the annual benefits and subscriptions have been extended. So for example, if you were prepaying, I think for the United Club for a Wi-Fi, bought a Wi-Fi package, an Economy Plus package, which I think is the extra legroom seats, or even a check bag kind of prepaid type thing. United is offering a 6-month extension on those, meaning you get they're basically extending the expiration date 6 months. And that's a pretty common hotels and airlines for kind of the supplemental stuff, or the ancillary stuff kind of on the side. The airlines and hotels have all kind of taken a similar stance on that and have basically just pushed expiration dates out into the future. It could be 6 months, it could be 12 months, it could be a couple months. It depends on what type of benefit or activity it is, but they have basically extended and pushed kind of due dates out into the future. So That's what United is doing. Delta is doing something similar. They are pushing Sky Club memberships out 6 months. I think they said they were only doing that if the expiration date was March 1st or later. I don't know exactly when flying stopped. I think it kind of slowed in the early March timeframe for most people. I travel a lot for work. I stopped traveling in late February, partly because I was sick, but it was basically late February, early March. So I think Delta is saying if your Sky Club membership ended in February, you probably got to use it a good bit. We're only going to extend Sky Club memberships if they expired March 1 or later. Again, they're doing a 6-month extension too, so we're seeing kind of similar things from Delta. In terms of card benefits, there's a couple of nuances. Again, kind of the credit card programs are a huge part of these airlines. They make a lot of money off these programs. United is doing a couple of things. They're basically doubling the available amount of Premier qualifying points you can earn from a card. That's on the Explorer card, and they're quadrupling the available qualifying points you can earn from the Club card. So basically saying we're giving you a better chance or a greater chance to earn more points from the spend you put on our cards, which I think makes sense. I mean, that seems fairly generous. I don't think they have to do that necessarily, but I guess they're giving people a chance to earn elite credit a different way other than simply flying, because they can't do that today. And Delta is doing a couple things on their cards. On their gold card, they basically offered an extension on $100 flight credit. I don't know a lot about the credit card benefits for United or Delta, honestly, but they've extended the time frames or the due dates or the expiration dates on their flight credits. For the gold cards, for Platinum Reserve, they've extended the expiration for their companion certs, so companion certificates. And then they've also extended the due date or the expiration on one-time passes. So again, most people are extending due dates again on all those ancillary benefits for their card holders as well. In terms of other, I kind of put an other bucket down here because there are a couple other things that are happening. Like redeposit fees, for example, are being waived. American has actually already done that. I know that because I had to cancel multiple plane tickets that were the web special awards on American, which are kind of like they're really cheap awards that kind of come with a lot of restrictions. And historically or traditionally, I believe you're supposed to pay kind of a redeposit fee if you cancel those awards. But I canceled 2 of them, didn't end up having to pay any redeposit fees or anything like that. So at least for American, we know they're doing that. But we haven't heard anything about kind of their larger elite program. United has also extended electronic travel certificates out 24 months. And there's a couple kind of specific benefits for 1K and Platinum members that they've extended as well. And then Delta's doing something similar. They've pushed out the expiration on their upgrade certs, travel vouchers, priority boarding vouchers, and importantly, and I think this may not seem like a big deal, but I think it would be a big deal to certain people, and maybe even myself included. They've pushed out the expiration on drink vouchers. So if you have a free drink voucher, you're going to have more time to use that than you were before, which I think is kind of funny and kind of important again too. I think it seems silly, but I think those little things that make the actual flight or the experience on board a little bit better are more valuable, I think, than some people might think. So I think that's kind of interesting. Anyways, curious what you all think about these changes. If you think they're fair, I guess I'm curious if you think they're not very generous, or they're kind of good enough, or they're great. I don't really know how to judge them necessarily. I think it's probably what we expected to happen. So maybe it's kind of right in the middle, not too generous and not too strict. But curious what people think, if you think they're good, bad, ugly, or fantastic. And I do want to know one thing too on 4 drink vouchers. That's awesome. And I hope the drinks aren't past the expiration date as well. That is good news. Well, you get to have 4 drinks maybe you weren't going to get to have before. That's awesome. And I do want to say one thing about American. Again, while we don't know what's going to happen with American, I've been hearing, and I'm not going to say this like an insider, like I'm an insider, because I'm certainly not, but I've been hearing that American does have something in the works that should be coming shortly. there's an American insider. His name's John NYC. You guys should look him up on Twitter if you're an American flyer. Somehow, some way, he has a lot of inside info on American and is constantly kind of tweeting it. He also shares a lot of it on Flyer Talk. Some of you may be aware of Flyer Talk, you may not be, but he is ever present there and has a lot of inside information at American, and it's usually really accurate. I sent him a quick tweet, not thinking he'd respond, but he did, and he said that American's announcement is coming, or some kind of information is coming. He didn't tell me what it was or what to expect. I kind of feel like there's two different possibilities here. Like, I think they could either do something similar to United and Delta. My question, though, if they're going to do that, is why haven't they done that already? I feel like they've had a lot of time. I think United, they're probably a week and a half behind at this point. And I don't know anything about kind of how things work at American, but I would imagine they would have already put together kind of a package of options, or maybe like a cafeteria menu type thing that says, look, we have option A, B, or C, and that they would kind of pick an option once United and Delta had made an announcement, and they would kind of quickly react and have something out in public. But they've kind of gone dark and haven't said anything. And again, it's been a while. So I think they're either just slow putting that stuff together, or they're coming up with something completely different than what United and Delta have put together, which I guess is still a possibility. Again, I'm not paid a ton of attention, so maybe there's some other leaks or information about what that might look like. But I really don't know. I just hear that it's coming, but don't have the details on what it might look like. But I will provide an update probably, or another YouTube video when that comes out, and talk about what might be happening, or what American has announced. Anyhow, any questions on the airlines, or any feedback, any thoughts, any experiences from you all, good or bad? Torpedo Joe, I don't know if you're flying, if you're out in Singapore, I don't know what airline you fly or what you've heard from kind of the carriers you use out there, but curious what your experience has been like, if you've had an interesting experience. I will too jump over. I was going to show you guys one thing I thought was pretty funny. So when I was looking through United's, I'll see if I can pull it up. When I was looking through United's portal the other day, or I mean their press center, looking for this information, and I've been kind of refreshing it over the last couple of days just to make sure nothing has changed. I did see a pretty interesting post from United that I thought was kind of cool, and they have, as many people know, I think kind of across the world, Zoom has become pretty popular for video conferencing and kind of meetings and Zoom meetings and all kinds of things. And I saw, and we actually use it at my work as well. And I actually saw that United had published a blog post or put something out on their press site where they had Zoom backgrounds that were United branded. I thought that was kind of cool. So they have some pretty cool photos from a United Polaris lounge, from the cockpit of some kind of aircraft. Couldn't tell you which one that is. Looks new though. Looks like a 737, potentially kind of a nice wing shot. A Polaris seat. Anyways, they have these available for download, so you can put them as your background on Zoom, which I think is kind of funny. So they're kind of reacting to all the changes that are happening, which makes sense. They really should be doing that. It's kind of fun that they had come up with something fun for Zoom, given all the Zoom queries recently. So let's jump back. I'm going to jump up. There have been a couple other announcements from other airlines. I'm looking mainly domestically, or kind of mainly in North America. But Alaska Airlines has announced they are extending 2020 status through the 2021 program year. Alaska and American have announced some kind of partnership as well. So I don't know if that's foreshadowing and American's going to announce the same thing, but I found it interesting that that's the path they chose. Considering, again, they've announced a pretty tight partnership with American moving forward. That some people say is kind of goes beyond code sharing and is even kind of more intimate than that. Air Canada is also extending elite status through 2021. So that's kind of, again, a Canadian carrier, but we're going to have another big carrier in North America that has said they're going to do the same thing. So I think these updates are trickling out. We haven't heard too many. Like, for example, I've not seen anything from Southwest. Haven't seen anything from JetBlue. I've been checking those kind of every couple of days to see if anything has changed. And maybe their elite programs may not be as big, or they're not as big as like an American, United, or Delta, of course, but they still probably have loyal customers. Southwest has a huge base of customers that frequent the airline and apparently really like it. So you would expect they would have some kind of announcement or information coming out. Not seen anything yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something pretty soon. So that's airlines. We can kind of jump over to hotels and see what's going on there. And I think things there are pretty similar, but there's a couple kind of nuances and things to look at. I'm happy with Delta. They haven't updated anything on the mobile app yet. Yeah, I'm not. It's funny you say that because I feel like the mobile experiences are so different between airlines. It's kind of wild that that the experience is so different when flying like United versus Delta versus American in terms of the technology. You think it wouldn't be that different, but I've heard some things about like United, for example. I've heard they own a large part of their technology stack, and I'm not a technology expert at all in this area, but I've heard they have at least have greater control or ownership of kind of the technology infrastructure that they run a chunk of their business on, where American doesn't, for example, have as much control. And I've heard that's kind of a reason why, at least from a technology point of view, things they move faster at United than they do at American, for example. Don't know as much about Delta, but there are differences in experiences, I think, when it comes to technology, and there's a reason for those a lot of times that kind of probably goes back to kind of the structure and kind of how they've built out their IT and their technology. So hotels. Again, we've seen the same kind of thing with hotels. There's a ton of hotel brands out there. I really focused on Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt. I think there's a couple interesting things here that, and maybe it's not interesting because they're all the same, but I thought it was kind of surprising that some of these changes are basically the exact same across all different hotels. It would completely make sense to mirror what your competition is doing, but it's also an opportunity to kind of distinguish oneself and do something a little bit different. I did want to look at the cancellation policies, mainly because I was just curious what they were like and how they have been, or what changes they were making. And Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt all had basically the exact same changes in the cancellation department. As of right now, all three are offering free cancellations up to 24 hours before arrival on any reservation made before or any reservation canceled before June 30. They are allowing free cancellations on any new reservation if that new reservation is made before June 30. So June 30 is kind of the current date. If this kind of crisis continues, I could see that date sliding out a little bit, but that is what we're hearing right now. So again, the cancellation window right now, or the cancellation, I guess, benefits or rules are the same currently across Marriott, Hyatt, and Hilton. Oh, wow. Okay. Accor is giving us half the night's credit that would get us to the same status. Wow. So you're getting basically, are you saying you're basically getting half of your current status in terms of elite nights? So if you're on a elite tier that requires 50 paid nights, you're basically getting 25 for free. Is that what you're saying? That's interesting. That's kind of like, I guess, what Delta is doing in terms of pushing elite activity to the following year. They're kind of giving you the benefit of the doubt and giving you an extra boost to help get to a new tier. Wow, that's generous. That's good. In terms of, so we talked about cancellations. In terms of actual elite status, we're seeing extensions basically through the 2021 program year into early 2022 for all three major chains. Again, that's basically the same thing the airlines are doing. Marriott is extending status all the way through 2021 into February of 2022. Hilton is extending through March 31, and Hyatt through February 28. And I don't think those are arbitrary dates. I think those are the traditional dates at which your status ends or would terminate if you were to lose status or you were to be downgraded, for example. So I don't think those dates came out of thin air. They're basically, I think, based on their annual calendar. In terms of points expiration too, I'm not as concerned about this because I have a lot of earning activity and my points kind of never really expire as long as you keep earning. But all three hotel chains have pushed out their expiration dates, or basically paused the expiration clock. So Marriott, for example, is saying we're going to pause basically the 24-hour expiration clock until February 2021, and then they will basically kind of let the process resume as normal. So if you have points that were set to expire before them, they should not expire. They may expire as soon as they turn that thing back on in February, but for the time being, they have paused expiration. Hilton has done the same thing, at least until December 31st. So not quite as generous, but I feel like that's 8 months away. So that's still not too bad. And then Hyatt has done the same thing all the way through December 31st as well. So the points expiration clauses read a little bit different on each website. I was trying to figure out if they actually meant something different, but the conclusion I came to was that they're saying the same thing. They're basically just pausing the clock on expiration of hotel points and saying, we'll resume our normal process basically at the beginning of next year. And that 24-month clock will continue. What is not clear if it's resetting or if it will just continue. I think it probably will just continue and not reset at 24 months again. But if you're earning and burning points, then that clock kind of gets continually reset. So it isn't a huge concern for many people, but just something to know about. If you used to stay at a certain hotel chain and have stopped for the last year or two. And then in terms of other things, there's not a lot in here. It's super interesting. Marriott has extended their suite night expiration into 2021 of next year. Their suite night awards are basically awards allow you to book a regular room, and then it's basically an upgrade award. I put all my business at Marriott. Right, that's where I spend all my stays. I've not really been able to use suite night awards. I've tried and tried and tried. Just had a lot of trouble doing it. So while that sounds nice, I don't put a whole lot of weight into that benefit anymore. I wish I could say I do, but it's just I've not been able to really use them, or at least places I want to use them. And that's the whole point. Like, I feel like awards should be available for some of the aspirational stuff. And if they just hand you these benefits, but you can't really use them where you want, then they just don't have a ton of value, at least to me. Marriott has extended free night awards into January 31st of 2021. And they have announced a couple of times that they're being a little bit more flexible and having a little bit more generous benefits and extensions to their customers in East Asia, so China, Japan, Korea, etc., which I think is cool. Again, that's something they announced early on, but the rules are a little bit different in those regions. So if you're staying there, live there, or have been visiting properties there, the rules are a little bit different than they might be anywhere else. Hilton is extending weekend night rewards up to August 31st of 2021. There's some pretty specific requirements around this. They have to be unexpired awards issued now through August 30th. So if they're issued after August 30th, kind of the normal rules will apply. And then one interesting note from Hyatt, they are postponing the introduction of off-peak and peak redemptions until 2021. That was scheduled, I think, to kick in or start this year. They're saying we're pushing that back. I think that's a good change for us as a consumer. Kind of off-peak and peak awards or rewards, just often it leads to increases in pricing. The dates you really want to redeem your miles for points for become peak awards and require more points. And then kind of the off-peak stuff is obviously less desirable. And it's basically dynamic pricing for hotels, right? They're saying, I'm going to charge you more points if you're going to redeem your points on a more desirable night or on a more desirable season of the year. And then Hyatt is also pushing out the expiration date on awards. So whether it's a free night award, a suite award, a club award, again, those are kind of like the suite night award that Marriott has. They're basically just kind of unique benefits you can apply. Say you book a regular room, and you don't pay for a club room, you can use a club award to kind of get boosted up to a club floor and have access to a club lounge if they have that at that property. So again, I think the hotel benefits are pretty standard. Again, I haven't looked really at what the other major changes are doing, like IHG or Accor, but that's what we're seeing so far. And again, nothing too crazy, kind of what you would expect. And I'm at least glad that kind of all three major chains, at least in North America, have kind of come out and said, here's what we're doing, and we're sticking to it, which is good. And we can't say quite the same for the airlines. Anyhow, that was kind of all I wanted to walk through. I want to see if there's any other questions, thoughts, concerns. I wanted to also make sure you guys knew that I don't know if anybody frequents the DoubleTree hotels, but this is kind of making rounds on social media the other day that the DoubleTree has released their cookie recipe, which is something I feel like they've kept secret for years and years and years. Now you can make DoubleTree cookies. I thought that was funny and worth mentioning since we were talking about Hilton today. You'll find that on their website. I think they were eager to release that with everybody stuck at home, which is kind of cool. So any questions, any final comments? If you guys want to know how you can support this channel moving forward, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can subscribe. Two, you can share with other friends and family. You can comment, and then also you can visit our website. We have a website, it's ExploreInformed.com. Not a ton of content out there right now, but we have kind of blog versions of a lot of our videos. Maybe you're at work in the future and can't watch a bunch of YouTube videos. You could read about some of the content on the website. We also have kind of a gear page, and I'm also keeping a resource kind of repository where I'm tracking a lot of different just resources that I use that I think might be useful for you also. Again, we have gear, kind of a gear listing, a resource repository, and there's just a couple things for people to maybe check in and monitor that might help them plan their travel a little bit better. So anyhow, again, I want to say thank you to all of you for tuning in. I want to say thanks for kind of supporting the channel. I think this has been cool just to get to meet folks and hear what people are experiencing out there. Torpedo Joe, any news from regional airlines like passing air? I haven't looked at Asia yet. I apologize. I haven't. I've mainly been focused on some of the kind of global carriers headquartered here in the U.S. I imagine they're probably making announcements. I just haven't followed them all closely. There's so many. I think there are a couple of blogs and different folks who are tracking kind of what, like, who are specific to the airline industry, who are tracking things more specifically. I saw a Google sheet actually that a team of people were tracking, where they were tracking basically every single global carrier. It was a huge Excel sheet, and basically all the reductions, basically, and it was wild. I mean, there are some carriers that have been reduced to basically no flying, and they were tracking it kind of globally across the world, which is pretty cool. So I think there are people out there tracking that stuff. I just haven't looked at it yet. I'm sorry, Joe. Tony Fernandez, he was not happy. Is he the CEO of AirAsia? A name sounds familiar. I don't follow like the global airline market quite like I should, but I've seen some interesting things out there. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining again. Feel free to share the video. It will be up on YouTube shortly, I think, as soon as it kind of gets compressed and finished. But thanks for joining. I hope everybody has a good evening. And hopefully we'll have more of these soon. I'm going to start talking about a couple other topics, maybe bring a couple of guests on, and we'll keep this going as the channel grows. So thanks again for participating. Thanks for hopping on, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.